if you're looking to grow and expand your business, the first thing you've got to do from day one is plan how you're going to be able to create an extra 6 hours a day of time to take on board all of the extra tasks that running a business is going to require of you. It's giving jobs away in the business that can be done by others under clear instructions. It takes a lot of skill and a lot of personal drive and motivation to keep going on those days when you're sitting there going, oh my God, we've just lost our best client, or oh my God, another member of staff has phoned in sick. And obviously over the last over this year with what's happened with COVID, the real pressure has been put on lots of us as business owners to be leaders and role models to demonstrate and keep driving the economy forwards.
Okay, so welcome to the December CASE broadcast. CASE actually represents connecting and supporting entrepreneurs. I hope you spotted the acronym there. And we run open and closed mastermind groups and run this monthly broadcast. And it's unedited on video and audio, where we want to give you, the listener, some valuable input to help you on your journey. Now, starting off this month, Melvin always likes to discuss some new word. Now, I did sort of suss out eventually that every word that he was bringing out was pretty much a bit of a dig at me. So I've got a word this month. So
have you?
As they say, Melvin, revenge is a salad. It's best served cold.
Oh.
But I'm gonna let you first remind us of last month's word that you gave out.
Do I have to? Because I prefer the previous month's word.
Well, that's the same as last month's. Carry on. Oh, you mean the word previous to that was a direct dig at me? Yes.
The garrulous word, yeah.
Yes. Moving on from garrulous, what was last month's word, Melvin?
Remind me, Patrick. Tell me, go on.
Oh, okay. It was recalcitrant.
Recalcitrant, yes.
Now, do you even remember what it means?
Does it fit the moment, Patrick?
Pardon?
Is it fitting the moment, being recalcitrant?
Well, have you got the meaning there in front of you, or do you need me to read it out, Melvin?
I'm terribly sorry, but technology is overwhelming me right now.
Technology?
It took me 4 days to get this hat, so I'm hardly going to go and find out the meaning of my word recalcitrant in its true form.
Okay, so recalcitrant, Melvin.
Go on, tell the listeners, Patrick, tell the listeners.
Is having an obstinately uncooperative attitude towards authority or discipline.
I was just doing it, Patrick.
Oh, I say, how wonderfully done there, Melvin. How wonderfully displayed.
That was a mini demonstration.
Okay, so was this more of a dig at yourself then?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was just a demonstration of the people that surround me. One in particular.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I think we should move on from that then, Melvin.
Well, we don't want to embarrass next month's speaker, do we? I mean, come on. What's your word?
So, my word for this month, which I will explain next month, is precipitous.
Precipitous. Ooh.
Yes, precipitous, Melvin.
Yes.
So we'll wait till next month.
That has a stinging tone to it, Patrick.
Yes, I could say it with quite a venomous tone.
I think you should.
Yes. Now, anyway, we're going to move on to this month's topic. So I'm going to say, like I normally do, please listen out, listen up, and listen in. I'm getting good at that now, aren't I, Melvin?
You are, Ted Rogers.
Right. So to those joining us today, just a quick breakaway from our discussion there, just to let you know that if you wanted to know more or be a part of the CASE Mastermind community, All you need to do is follow the links in the notes below to our website to find out more. And I'll see you there, in case you didn't already know. And now let's go back to the discussion. So we have a guest this month, as I'm sure you can see on the screen. And this is Matthew. So we've got Melvin, Pat and Matt. So Matthew Southgate has been running managed outsourced services for 15 years. So he's very qualified to speak on this month's subject. So welcome, Matthew.
Welcome, Patrick. Welcome, Melvin.
Yeah, welcome. Good morning, and
Good morning.
lovely to have you on board.
So over to you, Matthew. What is this month's subject, please?
So this month's subject is round two parts of the business that I spend a lot of time doing. I sit on both sides of the fence. So we've got an area around delegation. Now, part of our team here looks after a lot of our customer needs and requirements, but at the same time, our business model is outsourcing, which is actually a form of giving a job away to somebody else to look after and manage on your behalf. So as the founder and director of the company here, my job is to encourage people to outsource, but also ensure that my team follow the instructions of what we're actually supposed to be doing. And the two do go hand in hand very well together. So for those of you who don't know, if you're looking to grow and expand your business, the first thing you've got to do from day one is plan how you're going to be able to create an extra 6 hours a day of time to take on board all of the extra tasks that running a business is going to require of you. Now, whether that's admin, whether it's looking after your technology, whether it's looking after your marketing, and every business needs to work on all three of those areas. Now, unless you've got unless your business is very small and you're not looking to grow, then you're not going to require this. But everybody wants to be able to, as I do. I enjoy my 12 weeks a year holiday, and part of that is done through delegation. It's giving jobs away in the business that can be done by others under clear instructions. So part of the way I work on my calendar and day is I start by making a list of all of the jobs that have got to be done today, this week, this month, and then we move on to a process called DADDY. Now, I'm not sure, Melvin or Patrick, whether you've heard of the acronym DADDY for delegation and outsourcing.
How would you spell daddy in this instance?
I spell it DADDY. Some people will announce it as DADD. I prefer the extra Y for a personal reason, and I will explain that as we go through the 5 points.
Okay, I'm interested to know how on earth Melvin spells daddy then. But there you go.
Well, I was curious whether it might be an acronym with an I.
Some people announce it as Dada, rather than Daddy. I prefer Y because it's got a bit more of a personal meaning to myself.
Fair enough.
So what I'll do is the first D for Daddy is, does it need to be done? So when you look at a task, does it actually need to be done? Is it something like dealing with junk email that an Outlook rule can push that message into another folder? Do I need to do it? Is it important to me? Is it important to the business? And next option for dealing with delegation and tasks is A, automation. Can I find a way to make the process happen automatically where I don't have to touch it? Now, this could be something as simple as creating regular monthly invoices to go out automatically, where the invoice is created. We call it a recurring invoice. We send out 100 invoices a month, which are all for the same value of money every month. So I've automated that process. So that goes out automatically every single first of the month. Everybody gets their invoice, whether I do anything or not. Absolutely great. Fantastic. does have a little caveat that you do have to double check the process along the way. Next letter is D, delegation, which is a main part of this subject. Now, obviously, automation is great. It works flawlessly every single month until a customer changes their requirement one month. So part of my job has been to delegate the job to another member of staff to sit there on the last day of the month before our automated invoices go out to double check that A, we haven't got any new customers, B, no customers have left our services, and C, there's been no changes in their service. Now, I've delegated that job off because it's a job that anybody with the right bit of training and skills can do for me. They can sit there, they can go through the list and ask me any questions about whether any changes have happened, but it's quicker to delegate it. And then the last part is do it yourself. So when a job comes onto my desk, after I've exhausted, does it need to be done? Can I automate it? Can I delegate it to somebody else? Finally, as a business owner, there's certain things that I actually have to do myself. There's parts of the job that no one else in the business understands, can understand, or can make a decision about. So those fall on me. And hopefully by Friday afternoon, if all of the other 4 Ds and A have been completed, I can enjoy myself. I've got my weekend to myself, which by outsourcing and delegating these processes have freed up my time.
Excellent. And going back to what you said earlier, you have 12 weeks a year holiday, is that right?
So for those of you who don't know, I've got a yacht out in Spain that I've been gradually working my way sailing around the Med. And obviously by running a technology and an outsourced business and spending the hours building my team and following this outsourcing and delegation process, it allows me to go away and spend that extra bit of time regenerating, refocusing. As a business owner, people don't always see the extra hours we put in outside of the 9 to 5 that they are in the office. It takes a lot of skill and a lot of personal drive and motivation to keep going on those days when you're sitting there going, oh my God, we've just lost our best client, or oh my God, another member of staff has phoned in sick. And obviously over the last over this year with what's happened with COVID, the real pressure has been put on lots of us as business owners to be leaders and role models to demonstrate and keep driving the economy forwards. And obviously outsourcing is a great way. At the moment, there is an awful lot of talent who have perhaps been stuck in jobs previously that they've been made redundant, and now setting up an outsourcing business with a skill set is a great opportunity to future-proof yourself, to give you the opportunity to help and also replace that lost income that you've got.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I believe, Matthew, you've taken it to another step as well on the other side of the fence, where you, as a independent, will go and sit on a company's board in IT as a subject and become the virtual IT director. Would that be correct?
Yeah. So my background has been always in technology, and a lot of businesses don't have the skill set. They've got this absolute great, fantastic business model, but they're always looking to improve the efficiency and automation. And also we tend to find the average end user who may be absolutely great and fantastic at managing their part of the business, they don't actually have a full, complete understanding of technology. And there's an awful lot of ways that by using technology, we can save business money, time, and make them more efficient. So part of my role is to go into businesses as a IT director. I go to their regular board meetings and directors meetings, listening in to understand what their business is doing, what they're looking to achieve, and how they are looking to make changes over the following year. What that does is it allows me to advise them on whether their current setup is sufficient. We've just had a client who's set up a remote satellite office. They kind of started talking about this a year ago, and I sat there going, oh, it will happen one day. And then all of a sudden, we've already put the plans in place. They've turned around and said, next week, this satellite office is now going live. Straight away, I've already said to them that the lead time for making this satellite office live is 14 days. But they want it now live in 7 days. But because we're aware of the plan and the project, we have turned around and gone, don't worry, we can make some changes and put a short-term fix in while you get this office up and running. But obviously, without being part of their board meetings, I wouldn't have been aware of this pending situation.
Yeah. So it's fair to say that you are the daddy of their business. You're actually introducing daddy as a method into the, let's say, the day-to-day construction of how they manage themselves through their year utilizing your process.
Yes, so by utilising the daddy process, straight away, we've now started to set clear objectives of who is going to take over which area of this process. So the plan to open this satellite office up is a prime example of other directors have turned around and said, they've made the decision that it actually does need to be done. Something needs to be done with it. They've now started looking at the automation process. Now, when we talk about automation, some people believe automation is only related to computers or some form of technology, whereas automation could be described as following a work process repeatedly. So it could be explaining to somebody a process that needs to be done every single day. Now, that is a form of automation. It doesn't actually have to be robots. It doesn't have to be computers. It can be a well-defined process that a member of staff does. Now, you could turn around and say a supermarket is a fully automated process. You've got the order processing that goes on the computer. You've got the stock arriving at the store. And the final automation stage is the member of staff physically picking the item up off the carton and putting it on the shelf. Now, that is a well-defined automated process. But as you notice there's 3 steps along the way where you've got the ordering, which is all computer-based. You've got the delivery, again, that's quite a manual process. And then you've finally got the manual process of actually self-stacking. So automation does not have to just be around technology doing the whole job for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, Patrick, this could change a lot of people's lives, couldn't it?
Indeed, it could. We could even say that Matthew is the daddy.
Even absolutely.
Who's the daddy? So,
Who's the daddy? Absolutely, Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
That's wonderful. I'm sure that'll be enlightening to many people and music to some people's ears, thinking,
Yeah.
what do I do? What do I do? Where do I turn? What's the step? What's the process?
Well, I think a lot of people have been saying that automation is going to take away all of our jobs and it's supposed to make our lives easier. But I think some people are confusing what the actual term automation means.
Yeah, but let's not forget that in any business, automation makes life more simple. Automation makes life more of a steady flow. However, let's not forget quality controls, which are human.
Yeah.
Yes. And that kind of leads me on to the next letter, delegation. Delegation isn't just around giving a job away and forgetting about it. A lot of people think, right, great, I've told blah to take the rubbish out every Friday. Now, that may sound like a really silly, simple task, but without some form of quality control in there, that can lead to mistakes, frustration, and also people not actually understanding what the task is. It may sound a really, really simple task that to people who have worked in an office many a times in their life, down to a new apprentice who's their first day in this big world of outside their little comfort bubble where mummy's probably packed their packed lunch for them, sent them off to work. Congratulations, go and enjoy your new job. To walk into an office full of people, and then the first thing somebody turns around and says is, your new job is to take the rubbish out. Now, straight away, you've now suddenly created this moment of, oh, hang on, how do I do that? Now, part of delegation is to be able to demonstrate a process that another team member or another member of staff can work to achieve your desired results. Now, as I say, you can't just turn around and say to somebody, go take the office rubbish out. That, to me, leads to lots and lots of questions that certain people, members of staff who haven't had formal training, sit there and think, oh my God, that's absolutely outrageous. I don't know how to do that. For a first part, as a part of a quality control, is telling them actually how many bins there are in the office. Knowing yourself personally, before I delegate a job, how many bins there are in the office. Because very quickly you can become over efficient at delegating jobs without understanding people's time management and understanding the process. So as I say, it's no good delegating a job, go and empty the bins, because the first question they're probably going to come back with is how many bins are in the office. Now, straight away, I know we've got 11 members of staff here. We've got 11 bins, plus the bin in the kitchen and one in the meeting room. So straight away, my answer would be, please start taking the rubbish out of the office. I'm aware that there's 14 bins in the office. What that does then mean is now that member of staff has a form of quality control. So the first job they're going to do is go around and try and find 14 bins. As soon as they come back, and then they're going to come back, and normally they're going to come back and say, I've only found 12 bins. I'm then going to turn around and say, I'm aware of what the job is. I'm well aware that I've delegated the job onto you. So I know there's 14 bins. There's one in the meeting room. Have you done that one? And that is a very simple quality control method before I delegate a job out. And I personally believe in every job that you're delegating to somebody, you should at least have tried that job 5 times yourself, so you're well aware of what the process entails. Now, delegation doesn't necessarily mean that the method that I tell somebody to do it in is the most efficient or the best method. It's my method will work, it will achieve results, but at the same time, suddenly someone else who's going to take over that job is going to come up with a new super fantastic idea that may help automate this process or make the process even more efficient for our business. So sometimes what you have to do is give the job to somebody, go through the quality control process for a week or two, and then follow up with them and say, you've obviously been doing this job for a while. How can we perhaps make the job more efficient or simplify the process for you to allow you to achieve the job? What that does is part of delegation is giving the job away, but by giving the job away and then after 2 weeks asking them to review the process, you are empowering them to make that job their responsibility. It gives them a reason to have some pride in the job. It also gives them the opportunity to feedback and say, do you know what? You've been sending me to go empty 1 bin in each room, whereas what I could do is take the black bag into the room, tip all the bins into it, and then job done. Whereas you told me to go to each bin, take it out of the office, tip it in the big bin. That could be where we are overlooking processes, or we're creating a environment where people are going, oh my God, that's so difficult. I can't do that job, because they aren't doing it in their own constructive way.
Yeah. So by giving creative license, then Matthew, you're allowing that person to use their own ingenuity and having that openness to review your business processes to make the changes, to evolve, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, so by giving them the ability to evolve the process, but our first point of delegation comes back to quality control. So straight away, to me, that job of emptying the bins, as long as I know all 14 bins are done and they're reporting back to me to say I've emptied all 14 bins, I've got a quality control check. I've also got a valid part to say to them that part of this you've brought in this new process, you've taken ownership of that job, but actually I've noticed that 3 of the bins have been missed every week. The art of delegation is to set expectations early on and have a quality control method to test whether the process is working more efficiently.
Right. Okay. Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah, you've got to have some sort of review, and this has all come down from business processes, which they have to be in place to enable this to work, don't they? So, do you normally have them written down, Matthew? Is that normally?
We have written documentation to process a huge amount of our business. And to really make money in IT outsourcing, what we have to have is a step-by-step process that we've learned over the years, we've built in, and once you've got the idea, you can then write the process document, and then we can continue to replicate that from one business to the next as we take on a new client. So every single step as we take on a new client follows the same process. And obviously, as long as everybody in the business follows that one process, that process document, nobody jumps the gun sitting there thinking, oh, hang on, we've got a new client that's been onboarded, I'll skip out the first 3 steps. It's all about having a clear, written, documented process that everybody is aware of. Now, what that also does is means that each member of staff at our weekly briefing is told, we've got 4 new clients coming on in the next month. That part there then means that everybody's sitting there going, right, okay, so I know my part of the process has got to be done 4 times. But what it means is they're empowered then to push the people who are in the steps before them to make sure that they have completed their part of the process before you move on to the next step.
So Matthew, this could effectively be Daddy O because of the letter O and onboarding.
It could be O for onboarding. The onboarding process is actually a form of automation. I tend to like the word onboarding to clients because it's bringing them together. Whereas as soon as you mention automation, in my industry where people are scared of technology, you mention the word automation and they think that when they phone our service desk, they're going to get an automated menu that they're then going to have to sit there and make loads of decisions.
Yeah.
My view on outsourcing is to make the process as friendly and convenient for our customers. So I actually prefer the onboarding word rather than automation. But our onboarding process is a form of automation. Part of their onboarding process, we've got software and technology that will automatically complete the stages for us. But to a customer, I prefer the word onboarding.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, from a point of view of quality and speed, reliability, accessibility of information, once you've onboarded, it's a product that then can be shared by the rest of the team, subject to who needs to know. Would that be fair to say?
Yes. So by building a business, one of the first parts of being able to delegate is building that level of trust. And that comes back to empowering people to take on board the task that they've been given, looking at how they can improve the process, but by empowering them to take ownership of that process, and then they start to see the bigger picture. Now, it could be something as simple as here in the office, we tell everybody to put every phone number into the CRM. At first, everybody's going, oh my God, that takes us an extra 5 minutes to do. We need to find out whether the number is a personal mobile number, whether it's a business number, because obviously there's GDPR implications around storing that information. But now, 2 years on, as soon as our phone rings, straight away everyone's going, oh, it's really nice to know who's calling. Now, that one little simple change took hours of constant banging my head against the wall trying to explain to people why we need to do that process. To them at the time, they see it as a process that was time consuming when they were really busy on the help desk. It's, oh my God, I can't take my next phone call until I've done this part of the step. But at the same time now, they're sitting there going, it's an absolute saviour now. It makes our life so much more efficient. So part of delegation is around getting everybody on board to follow your visions and views as well.
Yeah, so A for administrator, as in the business owner conducting his team, is potentially another way of outlining the fact of the controls that you can have, which gives you the allowance to have, the 3-month holiday.
Yes, so by sitting down, spending the time educating and encouraging all of my staff and anybody who works with us to follow our processes does allow me to go away, leaving the office running in a state where I'm not going to come back to huge firefighting disasters. Everybody has been working through the process. They can obviously ask other people. And one part around delegation is to look also at your options around what happens when that one member of staff that you've delegated that task to is not in the office. Now, part of the reason a lot of people outsource their IT and technology is you could employ a member of staff to be in your office every day, but any member of staff you employ has 28 days holiday a year. So that's 28 days of the year, nearly a whole month, that potentially they're unavailable in your office when you have that disaster. So part of the reason people outsource their IT to us is there's a team of 11 of us here. Now, what that means is at any one time, we can afford to have 2 members of staff either on training, out of the office, on holiday, and the business will still continue pretty much unaffected because we've encouraged processes so other people can learn and understand the process of what goes on in other departments as well to keep the business running.
And what about added value, Matthew? Added value on the basis of, I'm not in the office, I really need to access some information. There's obviously a benefit in remote working, Matthew?
So obviously IT and technology is one of the easiest businesses to outsource to. For me, the ability to take communications, my telephone calls, I can just take my laptop away with me to Spain. I can sit there on the yacht. By having a proper IT remote access policy in place, that allows me to continue to work as if I'm sitting in the office. I've got quality control steps in place. So as a business owner, I always like to know how many phone calls we've received today. Bits and pieces like VoIP and new emerging technologies can give you a greater visibility around what your staff are doing. And it's another form of not necessarily a stick to beat your staff with, but it's a way of introducing a conversation around why they're struggling or why they haven't achieved something. The information with the latest VoIP dashboards allows us to see our busiest times of calls. So that might mean that when we're planning our days, we're saying to our marketing department, by the way, between 9 and 11, you need to be ready to answer help desk support calls. Your job will be just to take a detailed message, but without that information on a daily, weekly, monthly and yearly basis, you can't actually plan your business growth. So you could be planning to launch a huge marketing campaign. We're going to send out 10,000 letters to local businesses to drive up new business. Now, straight away, the first person that comes to me who says that, as a IT director, I'm sitting there going, hang on, we've only got 10 inbound phone lines and we're going to send out 10,000 marketing items. Does anybody see where our next bottleneck is? And most people go, oh, we only need 10 lines. Well, hang on, if you're going to send out 10,000 items at a 1% return, that's going to lead to 1,000 phone calls. How on earth are you going to funnel 1,000 phone calls over 10 phone lines? As the IT director, I'm sitting there going, it's all right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to phone Matthew up at his team and say, by the way, for the next month, we would like to update how many inbound phone lines we have. Now, straight away, part of outsourcing gives you the ability to scale your resources up and down at a couple of hours' notice. So for me, customers have been assigned 10 phone lines. I can go in and change that to say they've got 100 phone lines. And part of outsourcing gives you that flexibility to not have a permanent member of staff on your payroll or on your books, but at the same time, they've got extra capacity sitting there waiting for you to phone them. So any small business owner who's a one-man band who's just starting out, the first piece of advice I would give them is go spend your first 8 hours finding yourself a virtual assistant who is ready to work with you at that moment of notice. Now, a virtual assistant is a outsourced admin person who is standing by or under a preset number of hours, contracted to work and help you out. Now, by doing that, you've got a member of staff who's sitting there waiting, getting ready. They're normally highly skilled in working with multiple businesses. So they will normally also be a great sounding board for when you're trying to perhaps make a decision about something. And as a one-man band, your decisions are solely based on what you choose. You don't have a team. Around me, I have a team here of 11 other people that we have our weekly meeting where if there's something I'm unsure about or another member of the team is unsure about, at the weekly meeting, we encourage them to ask any questions that someone else in the team can help answer. Now, by getting on board a virtual VA, from day one, you've now got another member of staff in your business. It's somebody that you can now take your business from being called I to we. Because now when they phone in, some people will speak to you and some people will speak to your other member of staff, your VA. And that has suddenly now given you, rather than being a little side hobby, you've now actually got the startings and foundations of actually growing a business that can become reliant on generating you money even when you're not in the office.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. That's great. That's great. And I think that's, people need to step up and they need a process to do it. I think that's a really, that's getting the ball rolling, isn't it, Matthew?
It's really, really getting the ball rolling. Obviously, that brings me on to my last few points here. Some of the things when you're outsourcing, you perhaps don't want to or shouldn't outsource. And there's a few reasons why not every part of your business can be outsourced or delegated. So one of the things that obviously, I've lost my train there. Give a sec.
That's all right. So it's just the best way to go about it.
Yeah. So as an example, Matthew, what would be one or two of those items that you wouldn't want to outsource?
One of the things that you should never ever outsource is anything that gives you the competitive edge. So very early on, I learned there's certain parts of technology jobs that I could outsource to another member of staff, but are actually what distinguishes me and allows me to charge the higher rate of money for doing the job. So for me, part of my role as an IT director, I can't send Tim, who's the first line help desk person, off to that board meeting. One of my competitive edges, my skill, my knowledge, understand the technology, the implementation. I can't outsource that part of the role to another member of staff. It's part of the job that people pay more money for my advice and expertise. It's one area that day-to-day products and services I can outsource to other members of staff here. But obviously that is my competitive edge. That's one of our company's unique selling point, is myself, backed up by our team who follow the advice that I give them. Marketing, sales and marketing for any business is actually the business owner's number one priority. And until you have either developed a 100% robust sales process that's going to be delivering you leads every single week, it's part of the process that as a business owner is very, very unwise to outsource. It may be something that you know very little about, but you can outsource the advice and consultancy side of the business. So you're asking other experts to contribute, but at the same time, it's one of the areas that over 15 years of running businesses, I have found there's been the biggest struggle to outsource and see the results that I personally achieve in our sales and marketing.
Would it be fair to say, Matthew, that finance is an area where you need to keep that close to your chest?
Finance again links in with sales and marketing. It's a part of the business that I work heavily alongside our bookkeeper. I outsource our bookkeeping. I outsource our year-end accounts to accountant because they have an expert's edge. But at the same time, I feel that understanding the business numbers is what keeps our business driving forwards. It allows us to see where we need to save money. It also allows us to see where we can expand. But again, outsourcing your finance information gives you the ability to have the results prepared for you in a format that you require them. But at the same time, I've got an expert who I can phone up at any time and say, I don't understand why this month we haven't made as much money, or why our VAT bill is so large. And that is their job to keep that information on track, on hand. But at the same time, sit down with your accountant and ask them to explain anything that you don't understand. It's an area that people see as being a overly complicated process, but obviously we all know how much money we're bringing in each month because we're looking at our figures. We know how much money we're spending each month, but at the same time, you can't lose sight of those two parts. And one of the first questions when anybody's setting up a business they should understand is the difference between turnover and profit. It is really, really easy to be running a business with a high turnover that's actually losing money. So that is one area where outsourcing to an accountant will be saying to you, your money's down, your figures are down, your profits are down, and you're sitting there going, but hang on, we've had the best month here, we've sold 10,000 items. That's absolutely great. Why can't I be making money? And that's where understanding the finance around your business and if you don't understand profit and loss, outsource it to an accountant. But at the end of the day, at the end of the month, you want a report that tells you whether your business is profitable.
Well, that brings us to the turnover is vanity, but profit is sanity.
And that is a very good piece of advice. We can all run around saying our business is turning over 5 million a year, but actually, whether at the end of that, part of turnover is how much money is coming into your business each month. But obviously, profit is how much of that money is left after you've paid everything.
Yeah, retained capital.
Retained cash in the bank,
Yeah.
retained money in the business. Now, outsourcing can be a very efficient way of bringing in resources, but at the same time, you need to understand the cost of each contract that you outsource. So, outsourcing your IT, we say to every company, outsource every member of staff you have wastes between 15 minutes and half an hour a day on IT problems or technology troubles. By outsourcing to us, we will take that away. That will give you a more efficient member of staff, more efficient team, and remove that frustration. Now, that very quickly gives me an easy comparison to say to them, this is how much outsourcing is actually going to save you money.
What's the value of relieving that stress on an individual?
So the value of relieving that, I always say the average member of staff here costs me about £25 an hour. That might not be what we're paying members of staff. Some staff are paid more, some staff are paid less. But the average member of staff costs me as a business £25 an hour, whether they're sitting there working productively or whether they're wasting time. So straight away, as soon as the company says, I haven't got the money to outsource my IT, I then answer back with, I'll tell you what, if I show you in a month how much more productive I can make your staff in your team through automation, by removing those difficulties and those barriers, that at the end of the month can quite easily turn around and increase your profitability through wasted costs. Bits and pieces like VoIP communications, giving people the ability to answer their phone calls in the current pandemic while they're working from home. That straight away, that rollout by us thinking ahead for people, having a disaster recovery plan, which is something that every business should have, and we'll talk about that at a later date, about a disaster recovery plan and business continuity. But straight away, we have given businesses the opportunity to say to all of their staff, pick up your computer, pick up your telephone, go home. The government's told you that your job can be done from home, go home. Now, obviously, as part of the outsourcing agency, we have done that process for 300 clients. We've basically demonstrated this is how you do it, off you go. It's a model that's automated, it's a process. Now, that straight away has helped many businesses over the last year to continue to earn profit and make money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I assume that, Matthew, that you're only outsourcing to make more money. Is that right?
Outsourcing isn't always about making more money. It is about improving the process of your business. So again, you could have a member of IT staff in your business working on the help desk, but by us working from multiple businesses, I am seeing trends in other industries, or we're always learning about new processes. So what that means is say a new virus comes out, because we've seen that in one business, as soon as we put a preventative or protective measure in place for one place, our outsourcing team will roll that fix out to all of our client base automatically. So what that means is rather than having one skilled person whose knowledge, training is always becoming out of date, we are uncovering new technology. We are going off to all of the trade shows. We're looking at new technology, and we're speaking to other technology businesses where we are looking at ways that we can introduce that into other clients. So again, outsourcing gives you a extra skill, a research and development part to your business. And going back to what we were saying about automation and delegation, if you're giving that job to somebody that isn't forward thinking, isn't making a continued contribution to changing that process, you can very quickly become stale, out of date, unaware of new technology, unaware of new trends. So again, outsourcing gives you that extra skill set.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely brilliant. That's brilliant. Definitely. Well, what are your thoughts on that, Melvin?
Well, I'm a big advocate for this type of process. It's very important to have all the systems in place. My view is that every business should have one. Certainly if you're going to go forward in this technological age, and quite frankly, it will make communications that much more simple between you, your staff, and your clients. It means that even though it takes time to get to, let's say, a certain point of ease, once you get to that point, it's very difficult for a client to find, they would find it difficult to leave you. So it also gives you the opportunity to maintain and have a more lengthy relationship with your staff and with your clients. It just makes it feel more homely, despite the fact that one has to learn a few little tricks that come along because the way the world is going, technology is changing on a daily basis, and you just need to keep up with it. That will be probably your hardest job through your day. The rest of it should be a process of getting a job done as instructed by a customer.
And that as a business owner is part that I would say is key. Focus on your processes. Your processes are your unique selling point, and your opportunity is your processes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very big personally in projects that I'm involved with, particularly recently. The onboarding, onboarding. That word for me is fundamental and incredibly important in any activity on a daily basis in anyone's business. Because the minute you've done that, you can fly to the other ends of the earth. The work will get done.
Yeah.
Because it's in the system.
Yeah, and I really like the points earlier, Matthew, where you said about giving someone that creative license to change the process, because some people can be real controlling as a business owner, and I understand that they're protecting their business, their baby, but if you won't allow that, then things can't evolve. So giving that creative license allows somebody else's input into that scenario. They've got their thoughts on that to add in, and the fact that you're then controlling that, and you were talking about the regular meetings with people to review and look at that process and see if there's any changes, and maybe updating the business process that you've got written to comply with the new ideas that you accept and take on board. I think that's a fantastic way to evolve a business, but in a controlled way. So
but if you don't have a structure to review the processes, you do still need to, as a business owner, you still need to be the controller of those processes. So any change of process here, I personally review it, because there's a certain amount of work that you can do that corners can be cut, and members of staff sometimes will see a opportunity to cut out a step in a task. Now, if you give everybody free rein over changing the process, very quickly everybody will dive into a a bit of a corner cutting exercise along the way to make their life easier, their life simpler. But as the business owner, the responsibility of everything that every member of staff does falls on my shoulders. So obviously, if somebody else is allowed to change the process, to me, I've got to see a business advantage for a reason for that process to be changed. Now, I let everybody have the opportunity to come up with new suggestions, and sometimes they come up with a really great idea that works, and other times you have to stand up as the boss and say, unfortunately, no, we're not changing that process. Please go back to the old system. And that is where sometimes the daddy approach works, but you have to go back to do it yourself. And quite a lot of the processes, once somebody's changed it, I will personally have a go at that process before it's proposed as that's how we're going to change the business moving forwards.
Yeah, the best way to test the efficiencies, etc., isn't it? There, yeah.
Yeah.
But the beauty of technology means that in making a change, if that change doesn't have effect, you can revert back to where it was before, whilst you, let's say, process the thinking again and implement and put into place something that will be more beneficial.
So a part of that process is we have a policies and procedure folder stored on our network. So every part of the job that everybody does, there's a document that explains it. Now, one of the things that we do is once a policy is created and written, from a technology point of view, I make that policy read only. So people can't change that. So what it then means is if somebody wants to edit that document, they have to put a new version number on the end of the document file name. So what that does is that allows us to have a version control of each document, policy and procedure. So by doing that, if somebody changes the procedure and in 3 months' time we sit there and we go, oh my God, this new procedure makes us less efficient or we're having more problems, the version control allows me to roll back to a previous policy that we know was working, was good. So some people will go in and edit the live policy documents. That means that we have no history, no version control.
Yeah, that's quite important. And the reviews are fairly regular, as I understand it, Matthew. I mean, weekly, monthly, how do you do that?
We tend to, when we change a policy, we tend to give it a go for 3 months, because at first the policy, the process, it takes people time to learn the new process, and then it also takes a period of time to see whether it's actually been successful. So it's no good saying after the first 2 days, oh my God, this new process doesn't work. What it normally means is people are too reliant on the old process, that you've added an extra step in that they're unaware of, or you've brought in a new process that says every piece of hardware that comes into our office needs to have a barcode on it, but the admin team haven't ordered those barcodes yet. So when the new policy comes into place, it always takes the first couple of days, weeks, to actually see the change process happening and moving forwards. And it also gives time to iron out any miscommunicated parts of that policy.
Yeah, I think human beings are like water, aren't they? We prefer the path of least resistance, and we're not very susceptible to change. You'll always get people want to dig their heels in, and I think sometimes, you know, we find change difficult to adapt. So sometimes it's not someone being deliberately difficult, but maybe struggling to adapt to the new way. But
it's quite common in my experience, and I'm sure you may agree or disagree. In these situations, once people have actually got the hang of it, once people are hooked into the fact of these processes are beneficial, it's like a drug. It then becomes that much more exciting, that much more need comes into the conversations, and the development of those processes independently and bespoke business for business it becomes a very interesting subject on a board meeting or a daily basis even.
Yeah, it gives that empowering people, by empowering people to make change, that actually half overcomes the power of resistance.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying to people is we've got to make these changes, we've got to move forwards. But I tell you what, have a go at the process, report back to me anything that you feel could be changed or made easier. Straight away, what you've then given them is the ability to make a constructive change. Obviously, you do have to watch out. Some people have a more negative mindset to change. They're very reluctant to change. So sometimes when you give a process, it might always be worth giving a new process to 2 people or 3 people in your team, so they can all sit down and iron out the problems. And that is part of building when you're building a business is a product or service that will continue to operate whether the owner is there or not. If you cannot take a week away from your business and come back with it working efficiently, then you haven't actually got a business. You've got yourself a job. If you can leave your business for a week, go away on holiday, come back with no problems or very few minor problems, then you have a business.
But
Otherwise, you are working a job.
there's another saying for that one. You're either working in the business or on the business.
Absolutely. And I spend years and years working in the business, going around doing cheap, low-end laptop repairs for home users, thinking, the money's great. And then afterwards, I suddenly realised that that is never going to produce me a long-term income.
Yeah.
The day that I have a car accident, which is one of the reasons that I changed my life, had a car accident that put me out of work for a number of months. It was after that then that I sat down and it's like, do you know what? I still need to earn money. I still need a business that's going to support me when I am not there. And part of that is around this building the processes.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Patrick. Life changer.
Indeed. And I think we've touched on that before, haven't we?
We have.
That big life moment.
Most things come back to the same point. It's just a different way of getting there.
Absolutely. And I think, gents, we've summarised our summarisations there, haven't we?
We have indeed. It's been a very enlightening, let's say, I don't even know how long we've been going, but it's been a lovely meeting.
But what I would like to do is I'd like to invite everybody along to our case session in December. I'll be doing a bit more of an in-depth talk around the delegation process. And one of the key things there is I got a little bit of a story about, in my personal life, someone delegated a job to me without being particularly clear what they actually wanted the goal and objections to be. So come along in December and I will share with everybody the story about delegation, that the person who delegated the job to me wasn't particularly clear about actually what they wanted me to do. And obviously that is a big part of the delegation process.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Love it. We will share those links to our Eventbrite page, where people can come and join us and hear Matthew's knowledge and wisdom in an open workshop in December, the second Friday of the month in December. So
can I just add that we're obviously adding this within a new social media campaign that's currently going into action on LinkedIn and on Facebook. So do have a look and link up with us and get full information of this event and obviously forthcoming events.
Yeah, fantastic. And again, we would like to welcome you to be part of what we're doing and how we're working, Case, to help each and every one that works alongside us. So, gents, I think that as that now draws us to a close, I think the only thing is to say, now the word of the month. If anybody leaves reviews or makes comments on our post, Matthew, what we normally have is a word that they have to put in their review or in their comments for us to offer out a prize. Now, I know you've been speaking on delegation or outsourcing, but what word would you like to choose for our listeners to use this month?
A word maybe a little bit short, but I actually quite like a phrase of "give me an extra hour."
The phrase, okay, so it's a phrase.
Nothing like change.
We've all got to experience change.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can give it a go to see whether it's better.
Oh, Patrick, how are you going to handle that?
Give me an extra hour. I've made a note of that. That's brilliant. No, we like a bit of change. We like a bit of change. It's all good. So that's brilliant. Okay, so everybody, give me an extra hour. We want to see that phrase appearing for all of our listeners, both of them.
Well, there's three of us now. No, we've expanded by one, Patrick.
Well, it has expanded because Renee from Runcorn, who is one listener, his wife, Renata, is also listening to the podcast. So there, we've doubled our following. So that's fantastic. So without further ado, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him to me to you.
Goodbye, everyone.
I like it. That's a good finish. I like that.
Excellent. Excellent.
So, folks, thank you for joining us on our broadcast. This has been brought to you by Case Mastermind, a brainstorming mastermind group that you, the listener, can be a part of. Just follow the links in the notes attached to our website and Eventbrite pages to see what events you can join us at. If you enjoy our content, please share and review. One of the talented people who leave us a great review with that month's watchword that's given out on our monthly broadcast will be selected for a prize. If you would like to hear more, please hit the subscribe button so you can hear more from the Case Mastermind team. So remember, folks, listen out, listen up, and listen in. See you soon.